Did you ever stop and look at your Steam game library, only to find that you don't want to play any of those games? They are so competitive, so stressful. Don't you just want something more relaxing? Something light in tone that you can just immerse yourself into. And then you see it.
Greetings, Lord Robin.
Stronghold was developed by Firefly Studios back in 2001, and since then they're trying to reignite the spark again and again. But, as you know, lightning never strikes the same place twice. Huh, I guess it does. But what is Stronghold? It's a castle building game with a strong influence of German strategies, such as Anno, Alienation, Settlers, Blitzkrieg. The most important difference of those strategies are heavy reliance on the big amount of various resources. And what is the most important resource of them all? Yes, it's your people. Wood. Wood is the most important resource. People in your castle appear just out of nowhere. They step outside the main building, bend the knee, and they are willing to do any job in your castle absolutely for free.
Come to King's Landing, bend the knee or suffer the fate of all traitors.
And to get more people, you just need to make them happy by providing them with food, booze, religion, and occasionally some money. When things are getting desperate. But nothing will appear out of nowhere. To get any of those valuable things, you would need to make them yourself. And by yourself, I mean you would need to force the ever-living crap out of your peasants. You will start a castle by building, no, not the woodcutter hut, but the granary first. I mean, work is good, but it will require some significant amount of fate or booze to force your people into working without any food on the table. And as almost every other building in the game, this one is made out of wood. So you need a lot of it.
Wood needed.
Don't worry if you manage to spend all your wood on the houses for your people. If you don't have any woodcutter's hut, the game will provide you with one for free. So now, when you have one woodcutter hut, you can spend some time praising the artwork that was put into the animation. And this is more or less how the management system works in this game. Build the Fletcher hut only to remember that you don't have any armories, and now Lazy Bum won't do anything? Obviously, you just need to build an armory. But once you get the grip on the essentials, you will finally be able to relax and immerse yourself with this calm and beautiful game. Until enemies will arrive. You didn't raise any walls? Too bad for you, as peasants are not the best fighters, and no matter how good you're with bow and arrow, when you get skewered with spear...
Piece of cake!
But who are your enemies, you might ask? You start the game as a son of a king's advisor, that is left to keep country stable until the king will return from the crusade. And as soon as news of kings getting captured reaches the land, the great unrest begins. Your father is killed along with most loyal lords. And you are forced to flee with just a handful of forces left. Where would you run? Well, that would depend on what language you actually set your game, as it would change your map accordingly. So you finally can make your dream come true and capture whole Poland. The enemy lords are quite simple and fall under a certain stereotype. Coward, sly, fat, and edgy. It does not have any effects on the gameplay, as it doesn't matter what archers wear, red or black. They all burn the same. Story revolves mostly around these characters than you, or even your allies. You start at the edge of the kingdom with nothing but two old lords, who are hating the idea of giving you even the slightest power. And at the same time, they are too fancy to do anything themselves. Your first task would be to set a camp and get some food and wood for the future. No matter what you do, they will always be disappointed, and they will give you a second chance to redeem yourself. Build a wooden hold, raise some walls, killing some wolves, boom, easy. But wait, what is this?
The cowards have run, sir. We can't catch them. They'll give us away for sure.
Well, now you have to do the only logical things that you can think of. Go back and report. Chase and kill them all. And this is how your whole campaign against the new lords of a realm starts. Red is the first lord you will get rid of. He is a bastard son of some fancy billionaire who was living on his personal boat, partying every day with hookers and booze, until one day it all sank as a god's punishment, and Red became a lord himself. To defeat him is quite simple, just keep making archers, and this ingenious tactic will throw him off. Snake is a cunning lord.
Oh dear.
First you will try to outright buy him, but every time you get too close to finalizing the deal, he changes it to get even more from you. From his backstory, you should know that it was your father who took his eye, and ever since then Snake promised to kill everyone in your family. Later, he will betray you. What a shock! And you would have to deal with him the old-fashioned way. The most interesting part about the Snake part of a story is that you would have one mission, where you would have both castles on the same map. This idea was so good that 1 year later they released a sequel to this game, where all battles get in real time, with every castle being on the same map. Pig is not even a lord. He is a leader of bandits gang. He was born in a very poor family and had to steal from a very young age. These two factors did not help him to become a well-rounded London dandy. No, he is a big manly man who is interested in big manly man stuff. And food. A lot of food. To deal with Pig, you will receive help from monks that will slowly provide you with new mind-blowing technology, such as crossbows and molting fire. And using it, you will barge and burn Pig's house. Twice. Speaking about the lightnings. And last one is a big bad wolf himself. He is so edgy that even after his defeat he refuses to bend the knee. But you don't care, you just skewer him and throw him off the parapet. Your first battle with Wolf also would be your first introduction to local Wunderwaffen, Swordsman, who's in theory one of the most broken unit himself, as it almost does not take any damage and inflicts some enormous one himself. But in reality, it all breaks under one small issue. It's super slow. It's so slow that even Archer can defeat him by simply kiting for a while. Also, for the final mission, the king will arrive, but since he already established his incompetence, it's up to you to lead the final attack. The story will slowly progress you through all the mechanics of the game, opening them one by one. So it never feels like the game asks you to do something that you don't know how to do. And later in the game you would have some small choices regarding those mechanics. Like, beside the constant thirst for wood, you would also need to make sure that you have enough food. And if at the beginning you could just simply plant a few apple trees, later you will find out how useless it could be. The only viable option for a big city is bread, which require flour. That could be produced on the mill from wheat you grow on your... Wood needed. But at least it's never boring to watch the whole production process, as every worker will not simply swing his tool aimlessly, but performing meaningful actions. For example, farmer will first work the field, then he will plant the seeds, and after that he might sit his ass for a while, or go to a nearest garden, or bear paw. After a while, he will gather crops to deliver to the stockpile. If the production takes place inside a building, the game will show you some sneak peek on what is going on inside. So you could see a pike master polish his spear. At first it looks like it might overwhelm you after a while, but it works surprisingly well. You can always tell what's going on inside your city, and if something is working properly or not. You can also simply click on the building or unit for additional information.
We have so much food nowadays, I'm getting really fat.
I see. Well, we can always help with that.
What? No food?
Other than production building, you can also build tavern to provide your people with a place to get shit-faced. That will increase your popularity proportionally to the amount of people having access to it. On the other hand, people who got wasted will be out of commission for some time. So instead of making you boss, your Fletcher can molest some children around the maypole. Gardens and other fun places will also increase your popularity. But to experience them, people once again would need to drop their job and spend time flexing or just standing near the closest one. The only thing that will provide benefits without capping your production will be churches. As unlike real life, your people will not go to church. In Stronghold, it's the other way around. And this is exactly where size matter. The bigger your church, the more popularity you will get. Watching your people going around with their daily tasks not only relaxing, it also helps you to understand how efficient your town is. If your tavern is outside a city, it will not cover a big amount of population, hence not providing with enough popularity. If you have only one church in the middle of your village, it might take a while for a priest to get to this remote living lumberjack, leaving all the other villagers unblessed and vulnerable to sin. Some of those issues can be solved with tactical placement of walls. Why share an access to your private garden? And your people will simply dream of accessing it right in their workplace. Speaking of which, you would need to build walls. A lot of walls. Not only to avoid slacking, but also to avoid getting killed by enemies. Walls will stop enemies from storming right into a castle, and will provide advantage for your archers and crossbowmen, by allowing them to shoot with more accuracy and much further. You can improve defense of your town even more by placing towers. You got some small towers, medium towers, big towers.
How much would that be? And she looks at me and she says, I need about 3 bits.
You can add torches to fire up arrows, even bigger crossbow on top of the bigger towers, or catapult. To man those war machines, you would need engineers. Beside your army consisting of archers, spearmen, macemen, crossbowmen, pikemen, swordsmen and knights, you can also control engineers, miners and ladder guys. But it's not swordsman or ballista that is the most deadliest weapon in the game. The deadliest thing in the whole game is fire. You can either boil it in the kettle, so engineers could drop it on unsuspecting enemies under your walls, or you could put pitch around your town and light it up using the fire arrow. And my god, is it effective. No matter the size of the army, no matter the armor, fire consumes all. Last but not least thing about this game is Advisor.
Please, sire. I have a family to support.
If you know anything about Stronghold, it's probably him.
Spoiling us, my
After
lord.
playing this game long enough, his remarks will burn into your subconscious, and you will hear them every time you'll engage any hooded person.
Bit much, these taxes.
A year after our first game, Firefly Studio decided to release the Stronghold Crusader. And as the name suggests, this time you will fight in a Holy Land. First thing you will notice immediately is that this time fights will be much more engaging, as you will have all your enemies on the same map as you, trying to build their castle and make units as soon as possible. Secondly, it's not a lush polished greenland anymore. It is much harder to find a fertile land in the desert, so every spot is extremely valuable. And thirdly, gold is now the most important resource. You can buy anything on the market, and it's much harder to self-sustain your castle on your own production. Your best bet would be to specialize in production of something you can produce efficiently, like metal, stones or spears, especially since this game production is much faster and provides more goods over time. It does have some campaign, loosely based on historical events of Third Crusade, but this is not the main campaign of the game. Main one is Crusader Trail. 50 battles with progressive difficulty, and 30 more in HD version. This time you would have not 4, but 16 enemy lords, each with unique playstyle and dialogue. Some you can just rush from the very beginning,
The pond is dying in the Sultan's oasis.
and other will require you to amass a huge army first. You can customize your lord to some degree, like choosing a portrait and lord appearance, European or Arabian warrior. And if you don't like portraits provided, you can always just add them in the game files. Besides the lore changes, now you also have 2 military buildings with additional units. These Arabian forces are different from their European counterparts in how you should use them. For example, slaves are even weaker than spearmen, but they can set buildings on fire. And fire is still the most devastating thing in the game. Secondly, Arabian forces do not require you to provide them with weapons, only gold. But at the same time, they cost much more, so choose wisely. Additionally, with new units, you also now can make a fire ballista, and it is as devastating as it sounds. Long-range weapon on wheels that can set buildings on fire. And it is a favorite one of one particular caliph. Infidel! So be careful. Visually, it's still the same game, which was the best choice, as I think they could not get any better from this. Firefly Studio just slightly changed the appearance of some buildings and units to fit into Crusader styling. And what did I say about the first thing you would notice? I was wrong. First thing you would notice is this heavenly soundtrack. Nothing beats it. And even though this game is much more battle oriented, it is still very relaxing and very immersive. And for some people, this game is even better than the first one. Lastly, in 2008, Firefly Studio released Crusader Extreme. This one is pure battle-oriented game. Production is even more faster and challenge is just ridiculous. You will have this magic bar that slowly builds up, and you can pick on what you would like to spend your points. Usually, you will spend them on a catapult barrage on enemy barracks. Speaking of which, enemy will have a barrack that will endlessly generate units for free. So basically both of you have broken abilities. If you really like Crusader and you already went through Crusader Trail several times and still want more, I guess you could try it. I finished it once and never returned to it since. Maybe I should. Stronghold is a great game. If you couldn't tell, I really love it with my whole heart. No matter how many other strategy games I play, I keep turning back to this one. And every time it feels like returning home. Cozy and heartwarming.